I've seen it in the Nashville world. The best songwriters, the ones that are winning the Dove Awards and the Grammys, the ones that are writing for big names, they are honestly B plus songwriters, but they are A plus workers.
Consistent.
They are consistent.
Hello and welcome to the God and Gigs Show. However, you may be looking around and thinking, this is not what I usually see when I hear or watch the God and Gigs Show. That's because I get to come to you now from the other side of my God and Gigs. Normally I'm talking about gigs and how we balance the secular and the sacred, but now you get to see me in my church environment where I am here with my coworker, my sister, my friend, and my half boss.
It's weird. It's
This is going to get weird now because we have to talk about how we work together in church. Stephanie Muiña, welcome to the God and Gig Show. How are you?
Thank you for having me. We finally made it happen.
Made it happen.
I am great. I feel honored to be on your show. Thank you so much for even thinking that I can bring some wisdom to this. I love it. I'm very excited. I think you and I have a lot of experience that is definitely worth sharing. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
so
you
now
much.
we have to, this is going to be tough because we're going to have to take 15, 16 years of history back when you were like this.
Oh my gosh.
And try to explain how this relationship started. So we were giving some history. So those of you who are watching, again, this is my church, Metro Life Church. This is where I've served since 2009 or 10, somewhere around there. And really God and Gigs started, I was just telling Stephanie, you may have not heard all this story.
No.
But really God and Gigs got its start because when I came to this church, I realized that it was possible for me to work as a worship musician and as a professional musician, that, you know, our pastor, Stephen Marilesi, gave us like that understanding that we're supposed to be ourselves no matter where we go. We have that integrity. We don't change when we go here or there. We're the same people in the community.
Yeah.
And as musicians and us, we're professionals, as we were just talking about. So what I really want to share with this audience, with this God and Gigs audience, is how does that really work? But first, you're going to have to introduce yourself to them because they've never, this is a new place. So tell them who you are. And I love to start my interviews with this question because this is going to get you. If you could not tell anything else for the next 30 minutes, what do you want people to remember about you? Your 30-second elevator pitch. I know this is hard, but I have to do this.
Okay.
Yes. And sometimes you have to do this, right? For your own professional. So what will people need to know about you? The first 3 or 4 points just to get to know you.
My name is Stephanie Muiña. I've been born and raised in church. I am church made, church grown. I serve with my family. I serve under my family, but with my family, and we lead with each other. But I take the responsibility for all the music. I will solely take that responsibility because it needs to be good. It needs to be perfect. So I write songs for the church community. I would like to one day write songs for the global church, and I help lead a worship team for the weekly Sundays, and I work alongside you. But I'm just all things worship and music and songwriting. I love all of that. And to be able to bring that to a church community that needs encouragement through song, that is such a gift. I can't speak it, but I'll sing it. I'll write it. And I love to uplift people and bring the word of God to them through song. And I would like to one day do it for a lot of different people, whether that's on a tour or whether that's just through a lot of streams on Spotify. I don't really care. I just love to write songs for people that need God. So that's my 30-second pitch. There you go.
You did it. It was 45 something. We'll give it. Now, here's the coolest thing about what you just said. And again, it's so strange to talk to you after we work Sunday after Sunday together. Literally, not just Sunday, but all week long. Like, we are family. Your children, my children grew up with you. And now you're having children and they're like running around. So there's so much history. But I think what is interesting about what you just said is how much of your life revolved around music, revolved around worship with our pastors, your parents. And yet I don't feel like it ever took over your identity.
No.
Like you're still Stephanie to me as you were when you were little, when you were
Mm,
growing up. And I'll give a little history, and then I want you to kind of explain this to people who, again, may
yeah.
not know how this works. Like, how do you grow up as a PK,
Yeah.
become a worship leader, basically take over slowly as your mom, Pastor Mary Alessi, is a icon to me
Yeah. Yeah.
of worship,
Yeah.
and yet you have to step into her shoes. So there's
Mm,
somebody watching us, listening to us, that is in a church,
yeah.
small, big, whatever, and is also like, how in the world do I do this? And how do I
Yeah.
work with a musical staff
Jeez.
that, in my case, and as some of our other musicians, have other jobs, do this professionally. So we're going to try to pack that all in. But first, tell me a little bit about, like, how did it feel when you were coming up with your mom? I don't know what this is like. I don't know what it's like to have a worship leader, artist,
Yeah.
pastor, mom. We talk about it. I'm a producer here at this podcast,
Yeah.
but there's still stories that I hear about. So what was it like coming up with a parent that was in the recording and the music industry?
Well, I see it as an advantage because it was really my mom's love for music that made me love music. Thank God my parents were not too conservative in the musical area. They let me listen to whatever music I wanted to listen to. And I would try different genres, and I just maybe I didn't tell them all the genres I really listened to. Now looking back, it was sort of, your love for music it's going to go down many different genres and paths. So we've all heard uh I listened to Kanye West, I listened to Led Zeppelin, I listened to all of the kind of stuff, and it was like, okay, I'm not going to tell my parents I listened to this, but I love all of this so much.
Yeah.
But thank God for my mom, because she loved music as well, and she gave me that freedom to just explore in the musical world. But the challenge probably that I'm running into now is I feel like I can't do it without her, because she's so good at it, and I'm now trying to become my own leader when I've been depending on her my whole life. So, and thank God for that problem. It's a good
Oh yeah,
problem to
it's
have.
absolutely, yeah.
It's a great problem to have.
Most people would be wishing that they had a mentor / parent that actually
Jeez.
lets you have that freedom. And again, that's why I said, again, I can say this quickly, about her leadership,
Yeah.
is that she leads in a way that gives you room to grow
Yeah.
while still showing you the way to grow. Like,
Exactly.
I know there were days when I can tell the story because he was actually in the book, when Christian Dentley from Tate Six, at the time he was worship leading, I think, in Orlando. But she brought him in. You probably don't remember this, but she brought him in because I was frozen when it comes to making changes during worship. I was overthinking. And she brought him in and said, hey, work with him. I mean, I don't know how close I was to being fired, but like clearly like I needed help.
Yeah.
And she gave me the room to say, okay, I'm going to bring in your mentor, someone to kind of like, help you kind of see that. And this is, again, now he's producing. We've had amazing people come in throughout our people that she and Pastor Steve have relationships with.
Same with me. Yeah.
Yeah, but they saw something in you and in me,
Yeah.
and gave us room to
just grow
to figure
and
it
do
out. It's like, okay, if we don't know what genre we're trying to do or what kind of flow that Metro's going to have, what musical kind of style,
gosh.
it's gone since we've been together working. Yeah. It's gone from gospel to this thing to more of a rock thing to more this sound and every time it's like, hey, we have freedom to move, but still kind of have like the boundaries,
the parameters,
right?
That's how my parents were with me. They really just let me grow, but they would introduce me to the right people. They would encourage me to write. They helped me go out to Nashville and record songs. I was in Dallas once when I was only 20, 21, and they were helping introduce me to producers and to songwriters. They flew out producers to help me. So they were my biggest supporters. However, they never protected me from failure, and they never protected me from the reality of that industry. Because my mom, she knew the truth about that industry. She knew about the truth of the failures of that industry, and she didn't want to shield me from it completely. She wanted me to kind of spin my wheels a little bit and get it out of my system to really learn about the reality of that world so I can find further purpose. So I'm really grateful with how they handled it. They didn't spoil me. I don't feel like I was spoiled. I don't feel like I got a leg up in any of it. I'm running the exact same race as every other girl trying to make it. But they're my number one supporters, and they still come and help center me and center what my role is at church with music as a worship leader, even outside of church with songwriting. They're just the best at helping me with that.
Yeah, I have to agree because, again, I have this firsthand knowledge, but we kind of joked before we started about the whole singers versus musician dynamic
Yeah. It's crazy.
that worship teams, and let's say again, because we're talking to an audience of people who work in every sphere of creative life, and especially, that do gigs. I mean, I've been on plenty of bands where the lead singer / director is up front, and then the band's like because we live in the same world, but yet we live in two different worlds. When you prepare like a worship, like we were just talking about preparing for our Christmas project and getting new songs out and things like that, there's a different level of expectation and mindset. Like I said, we're both crazy in different ways.
Yes.
So
I know.
I'm wondering, and this is going to be like where I get to find out what you really think about me. What is the biggest challenge for you in a songwriting position and a worship leader position working with musicians? Not just me, although you can point me out, but what's the biggest challenge? Because again, I'm thinking of the person that's thinking like, okay, how do I handle X? Whether it be egos, whether it be, coming on time, whether it be learning music, like professionalism, like what's the biggest struggle you go through getting your vision across to either musicians or producers or whatever when you want to get songs out?
Man, I've learned so much. I have been working with bands since I was like 15 years old.
Right.
And all those guys have been my best friends growing up. So I have had a lot of confrontations. I've had lots of successes and a lot of embarrassments. And there's many different things. I think one thing I had to learn was musicians, they are a little weird. And the truth is I can't blame them. I'm the same way. And the truth is they spend a lot of their time on their instrument. So that's taking away time from social skills.
Yeah, you know what? I'm laughing, but something just happened recently. And I hate to date this podcast with something sad, but there was a musician that recently passed away that was an amazing musician. One of Usher's worked with Usher in Ariana Grande. And everybody keeps saying about him that he broke the mold because they say he was amazing at his gifts, like a top 5 musician in the world, drummer musician in the world. But he also had social skills. He also was a good person.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they said what most people at that level
don't have that.
No. They focus so much on being good.
Yeah.
And we give them a pass at being kind of like a jerk or being weird or being like eccentric.
Yeah.
You give them a pass because it's like, but they're so good. And what you're saying is that's the way you grew to expect that, I guess.
I do. And I've learned, I have a side to that as well. There's times that if there's music on in the background at a restaurant, I'm halfway listening to the conversations. And I'm listening to the riff, I'm listening to the chord structure, I'm listening, or I'm singing along, and I will interrupt and go, dang, I love this song so much.
It's a curse of the musical family, man.
It's always, it follows you everywhere you go. So I had to tell myself, like, musicians are just goofy and they're fun. And one of the lessons I learned early on was if the band is jamming out to a song in the middle of rehearsal and they're not focusing, that means that they know the song and they're confident. So back off, let them enjoy. The only time they stress is when they don't feel confident with the blending of a song. And that's when you'll notice, oh, okay, they're focused right now. That's because they don't feel prepared. Give them time to practice. The second they start jamming out, I'm like, they're good. They're confident. They know what they're playing. I could just let them play.
I appreciate that. There's definitely 2 lines. I'm going to confess
you have to.
There's the other side where it's like, if we just play whatever, maybe she won't pay attention to the fact that we didn't practice the song. And we just be like, I'm going to get it when I get home. I'm going to get it when I get home and play it. But there's so much of that that's like, you have to be the flexibility.
Yeah.
I think like creatively, we come from different places, but we have to like give room, and like the Bible talks about this. We can talk about this very specifically in terms of like our faith and our understanding that we should have a leg up on other bands where we're on bandstands or any creative space where like we're dealing with with people that don't believe. We shouldn't be able to be better at grace.
Yeah.
To be better at saying, yeah, let me back off in it. But
I know. I think that's you. If you're saying what I think you're saying, that's probably one of the biggest things I've had to run into, which is it's a lot of fun playing in a band. And you have to remember that there's a professional side to it. And if we want, and I have noticed it every single time. If we want to be good, you have to have professionalism.
yes,
As much as I love the creative space in songwriting and in the musical world, as much as I love that it's the only profession you could stay up till 3 a.m. jamming out and you did your work. You did your
yes,
job.
it's true.
It's crazy.
It's our job. Exactly.
That's our job. And it's so much fun. At the end of the day, though, I've noticed more and more that the ones that actually last are the ones that are professional, the ones that you can rely on. And they have to be a prodigy and a genius at their instrument for people not to do that. But still, John Mayer's one of the best guys ever on the guitar. But he shows up and writes the songs, finishes the songs, records the songs, and puts out the songs and goes on tour.
Yeah.
And he's responsible. And I've seen it in the Nashville world. The best songwriters, the ones that are winning the Dove Awards and the Grammys, the ones that are writing for big names, they are honestly B+ songwriters, but they are A+ workers.
Consistent.
They are consistent.
Right.
They send the demo. They finish the demo and they send the demo. They show up on time and they're focused. They know when to have fun and they know when to turn it off. And that's something that I've constantly had to, of course, teach myself, but teach like a worship team and tell them, hey, if we want to be better as a team, if we want to sound like we're blending, if we want to sound like there's chemistry on the stage, then we have to be responsible and we have to be here on time. We have to learn the parts, practice the parts. It's just like any other profession and you have to be professional about it.
Yeah, I love the fact that you talked about profession because we just talked about this in our training, I think for, what was it? We were talking about professions. But we said, in our ministry training, our ministry training, it said that a professional professes.
Wow.
That the whole point of a profession is I have faith in X. A lawyer has professional, they believe in the law, right?
Yes.
Or a doctor believes in medicine. That was the whole point of that teaching.
Yeah.
And again, it's why we're getting here at this church at Metro. Wow. It's what your parents, what our pastors have preached. It's like you are what you say you are. When you show up, you lead by example, not by parking space, right? So musically speaking, just saying, the Holy Spirit's going to come in and I'm not picking on other churches.
No, I know.
But we both know, like some people like to blame God for, I'm just going to not prepare.
I know.
I'm just going to show up and God's going to bless it. And that's not how God works.
It's not how it works.
And again, if your doctor showed up and I'm just going to feel my way through this procedure, you'd be like, I'm not ever going to you again.
No. And I watched that Vogue 70 Questions with Taylor Swift, and they ask her, what is creativity to you? Mm-hmm. And she said, creativity is you get a spark of an idea and you're able to sit down and put that idea to paper, put pen to paper, write that idea down, complete the idea, and then act on that creative idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so not how the church views it. We see it more free flowing and just let it go wherever it goes. If it doesn't finish itself, it's fine. If you don't have a bridge, it's fine. But you have people that are professionals at this saying, no, you complete it. And you put pen to paper and you finish that idea. You write that extra verse. You write that bridge that you can't think of right now. And you complete it and then you act on it.
Yeah.
And that's something that even I have to constantly tell myself, if I want to be first an example of excellence around musicians, then I have to be completing my creative ideas always, and pursuing them.
And from our perspective, that means that I have to be, in our working relationship, there have been times that I've had ideas or had things that I kind of wanted to push a certain direction, and I need to give you the space to get there, to get to the complete idea, because sometimes I'm, if we just did this chord or we just did this, but is that working relationship that you talked about, okay, I know that your sound, what the worship team or the song, if we're going to be putting out a song, a lot of times I tell people all the time, oh, are you producer? Like, no, I love being in that space where we're just at the piano.
Yeah.
And Pastor Mary, and I just get to come up with chords and I get to walk out. And I let
Oh.
the professionals handle all that stuff.
It's so much fun.
But that's where I get to say, okay, am I going to be part of the completion? No, but I help you get there.
Yes.
Like I help them think of the completion. So I'm not so insistent.
Yeah.
That I need to have I need to put the period on it. The sense that I need to have my idea be the completion of it. Because you're going down that path
and it'll
get there. And it's like a trust thing.
Yes.
I think it's like a trust fall thing for musicians and creatives and singers and worship leaders. Like you're constantly falling back like, okay, it's going to get done.
Yeah.
And if you're the one pushing,
I'll get it there.
You'll get it there. So I'm going to just help, but I'm not going to be like the person that's getting in the way. Getting in the way of it.
And my mom, she would always tell me that she was always nervous to finish the song because she never felt like it was fully completed, that there was still something to change, still something to add. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, Mom, it's not done until it's out in the world.
True.
You can change it even 2 weeks before it's released. Just at least say, okay, draft 1 done.
Yeah.
Because we've been in the studio putting down the vocals and then I think, nope, that doesn't feel right. That lyric, that melody doesn't feel right. Let's change it. And what's even better about today is we release the song. I could still go on YouTube and do an acoustic version of it.
Yeah.
And change and add something or change something. But to a lot of creatives, it is totally normal to feel like it's dangerous to finish the idea because this is such a good idea. I feel like more should be added to it. Well, you can still add to it. Just at least get draft 1 done.
I'm going to tell you something that this is literally coming out of a workshop that I've been doing recently on God's creative process. So tell me if you believe this fits what you just said, okay? Because we're talking a lot about creatives and what we do. And I said, okay, why don't we look at how God creates? And so if you look closely at that Genesis account, God says, right, I made this, let there be, let there be, let there be. And every single verse, it then says, and God saw that it was good. And then you said, wait, wasn't it good the second he made it?
Wow.
No, he evaluated it. And then he gets to, and this is where all the ladies are going to be like, yay, he gets to man and he makes man and he's like, not good enough. So God is even like, my work was not adequate. Like he's willing to look back and like, nope, let's fix that again. Like, let's try it again. Potter's wheel, you name as many things. God is cool with evaluating and starting over. And so I think a lot of us, we have to give ourselves again that grace.
Yeah.
To say, hey, the first one wasn't good enough. Let's try it again. But at a certain point, I'm going to allow it to exist.
Yes.
And then, like I said, I love the collaborative thing that you're talking about. Like, okay, if you didn't like the first one, let me show it to somebody else. Let me get another songwriter and let me show it to the band. Let's keep and Sundays. Oh my gosh, Sundays to me,
that's the best.
I think that's one of the things that again, we have an advantage over any other. Maybe Broadway.
Yeah.
Is where they do the same group or maybe the same band.
Yeah.
Like we've had we were just talking like, this is crazy. Like we've had a relationship working for over 10, 15 years.
Craziness.
Some of the people in our band have been there junior
20 years.
20 at least.
Yeah.
I 18, mean, started with your mom back in the old building.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. Like what is, since we were in a church about relationship. And again, we're talking to people that maybe don't have this.
Yeah.
So how important has that been to have relationships that long in your creative life?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I really, again, it is such an advantage. And the whole creative process, I used to be a bit more stubborn about it because I did I was immature and I wanted it to be done my way. I thought it was best if I can finish it with what was in my mind. But I wasn't creating a team by doing that. I wasn't trusting my teammates. I think your son told me that one time. Marcus told me that. He was trust your teammate. And I don't know what he was referring to, but that little tiny phrase stuck in my head. And I was like, I need to trust my teammates. So with you, if we're collabing about a set list, if we're writing Thank You for Christmas, I really trust my teammate because I'm not a piano player. I can't contribute the chords. I don't hear it. And I really believe everybody comes with a made repertoire in their mind that only it's their flair, it's their style,
Yeah.
that only they can bring to the table. And that's the beauty of collaboration, but trusting the people you've brought into that collaboration. And it happens in songwriting sessions, but it also happens on Sunday mornings.
Absolutely.
And as a worship leader, you need to utilize that, and you need to let them bring their style, let them bring their flair, because that style with a lot of time and a lot of training can turn into an anointing.
That's a great point. Yeah, yeah.
It turns into an anointing.
But it has to be given the verse that comes with, let patience have its perfect work.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
patience with the worship team, patience with
yes.
like let the people stay in the place long enough of collaboration, of playing songs wrong, of making mistakes on Sundays where everyone's like, oh my God. But
how do they miss that chord or whatever?
If we hadn't gone through that, we wouldn't have, and I'm pivoting here, we wouldn't have, how many projects have we done now as Metro Life Worship?
3. It was Christmas at Church, Overcome, and our EP. Actually, it's 2 to 3.
I feel like there's more even with with singles obviously don't really count, but like I remember when we first started recording again. And that was fair. That was a fearful moment for me.
Crazy.
I'm sure for you as well. Just again, professionalism, saying now it's not just Sunday mornings. Not that Sunday mornings is less. But it's a different mindset. Like now we have to put out the project. Now we have to get the chords right. Now the producer needs to have this. We're bringing in people who are Grammy winners and have worked with Grammy winners, and they're expecting a certain. And so I think the Sunday things that we've been doing, the consistency, prepared us. Would you agree?
Yes, I'm glad you say that, because I was actually talking to someone who is a worship leader for a newer band, for a newer church, and they don't have musicians that are like professionals. They're just homemade musicians, and they're getting better. And they're just struggling with that whole. We have a bunch of these musicians and singers that aren't professionals. They don't do this in their private life, but they want to be songwriters and singers, and I completely understand that desire. That I was that at one point. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm shocked anybody gave me a chance, but that is a very real feeling. And it goes back to your point about just giving it time for them to become perfect through collaboration and through playing every single Sunday. And I had the gift of having all of these incredible musicians, that at my disposal on a Sunday morning. And it was so easy for me to pitch it to you. It was so easy because you were really incredible. It was easy for me to pitch it to Junior. Yes, you're amazing. But that's got to be hard if you're a worship leader for a team that still needs a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But you've got to be grateful because that time has been ordained for you. If that means you have to wait years to train up these musicians to become better songwriters, then, and truthfully, nowadays you might not have to wait as long as you think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's shorter.
It's getting shorter.
The technology and the accessibility is shorter, but I think what you're saying about like the character and the maturity doesn't get.
You can't skip that process.
You can't skip that part.
And you don't want to be blowing up and getting asked to go to a church to play or getting gigs, and you're not even sure if your piano player has character, or you're not even sure who's going to stick around. That's the scariest thing during a photo shoot. You're like, who's going to be here in a year when we're doing a photo shoot?
It's like in the band, you're like cropping people out.
I know. And that's a very scary thought to have. So if God is giving you time as a worship leader who wants to write songs, if you need time to develop your songwriting and to develop your musicianship and to develop your team, see that as a gift. You have all the time in the world. The most popular Christian artists they're in their 40s and 50s. Like Brooke Fraser, I think she's 40 now. And Martin Smith, he's in his 50s. They've all gotten married. They all have their kids. They have their church leadership down pat.
Yes. They're grounded.
They're grounded.
Yeah.
So I think if you find yourself in that position where it's disappointing because the quality isn't there yet, then you need to just trust God, because that's developing the character in you that you need before that whole time comes. And it'll come. You're going to have that song. You'll have that moment where it takes off if you're really pursuing this world seriously. And you got to see if you even like that world.
Oh, yeah. Because it's not I've never, again, it's going back to where we are at. one of the reasons why I'm an every Sunday musician as much as I can be. And I've never had a desire to tour. I've never had a desire to go, because that's not my heart. That's not your heart. Like you've had the opportunity to do it. You have the talent to do it. But is it your calling? Is it where you're called to? And it's like, no, like I can say that confidently because of where we're at, because this is my church.
Yeah.
You know, this is where I'm grounded. This is where I'm rooted. And then if God adds to that, we have people in this church who have been all over the world, and yet they still come back because it's not about the awards or money or the fame, because all that, like you said, we have our families. That's what matters at the end of the day.
And it is really the most amazing feeling to have a worship team that are your friends, that you do life with. That there's nothing better than that. There really isn't. People that you sing worship with every Sunday, and you see the impact on the crowd. You see the impact during the conferences, and you get to go to each other's house for dinner that week. There's really nothing better than that. And it's a gift. Being a worship leader, working with musicians, even the hard days where you're like, is anybody getting it? Is anybody listening to me? Am I becoming a good leader? Am I getting any better? All of that process is such a gift from God, and it is such a fun place to be in, because what you become down the line is better than a professional musician. You become a leader in the music world. And it's so much fun to write songs. It's so much fun to make music, but to lead people and to really pour into people, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better.
Okay, I knew you were going to kill this. I was like, I feel like this has been it's been 15 years in the making of an interview where I get to be in the podcast host side, but I always had to close out with this. So, Stephanie Muiña.
Yes.
Let's take you back to that 15, 16-year-old. Let's take you back to when you were being asked to step into this world by your mom, who had already done it. And just imagine there's somebody who is where you were. Okay? There's somebody that you're talking to right now who is a Stephanie who's about to go into this big world of worship leading and songwriting.
Oh my God.
So basically, I'm asking you to talk to your former self. If you could say anything to that person, to you back then, what would be one thing you would say to them to encourage them?
Figure out who you are and don't get distracted by becoming somebody else. If there are too many voices trying to turn you into too many things, shut off the voices. Figure out who you are and what it is that you want to achieve. If that's being a really good guitar player, choose that. If that's being a really good songwriter, choose that. If that's being a really good photographer, choose that and stick to it. Don't get distracted. Don't get off social media.
Exactly.
and don't compare your life to other people. Don't compare your gifts to other people. Don't compare the calling to other people. Find what it is that you love to do that brings joy to your life, and become the best at it. And don't get distracted.
Well, Stephanie Muiña, my friend, my sister, and my
this is so fun,
co-worship leader.
I love it.
This has been a
Thank
blessing.
you.
And as I have also been privileged to be the producer of this podcast, it was really fun to actually switch roles a little bit.
I know. This
but
is fun.
Let's tell them quickly how to find our stuff, your stuff, the Metro Life Worship. Tell real quickly, how do they find those projects?
Well, Metro Life Worship, it's on all streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. You can even tell Echo or Alexa, play Metro Life Worship, and we will play on your device. You can follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Facebook and on TikTok. But anywhere you listen to music, you can hear our worship.
That's right. Go check it out. Thank you for joining the God and Gig Show, Stephanie. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Alan. For real. Thank you. For real. I feel so honored to do this with you.
My friend, thank you for watching this episode. If that blessed you, you got to make sure that you stay connected with this community and this channel so that you can get more where that came from. We're sharing great interviews, tactics, strategies, mindsets, lifestyle choices, everything is going to help you become a totally confident creative. And don't miss an episode of the God and Gig Show. If you are staying connected to our channel, you'll be able to find us anytime we release new episodes. And you can check out some of our archives of almost 200 episodes now that we've shared over the last few years. Make sure you check out one of the suggestions right now, because it's probably perfect for you to continue to develop as a creative. And continue to stay connected with us, because we're here to help you become the creative that God created you to be. We'll see you in the next episode.